Greetings everybody, it's Jim and I have a commerce game today from Metagaming. It is written by Greg Kostikian, and that name should sound familiar. It wasn't to me actually at first. In the recent last decade, I've actually learned who this guy was. He's actually made a lot of games, and he's been around forever. And just under my nose that I just never got his name. He's just always been in the, it's one thing, you got Steve Jackson Games, like Steve Jackson Games, right? But Greg just right under the radar. But this commerce game reminded me of a lot of the computer game Elite, because it's one of those buy low, sell high games. You're trying to go to distant stars. It is a science fiction game, so you're going to distant stars and traveling and trying to make deals and everything. And it reminds me a lot like that, because you can also get involved in some smuggling if you want to. Today, I'm going to be going over with you the metagame microgame Trailblazer. Okay, so Trailblazer is the 20th microgame in the metagaming series. It's one of the last ones they made, and it is a complete departure from their other games for two reasons. One, it's not combat-based whatsoever, and two, it does not play in like under an hour. All right, this definitely takes a lot longer. Let's take the back of the cover here. Look at the second paragraph. Trailblazer is not your usual micro game. There is a lot of record keeping. They should have emphasized the word lot there because they ain't lying. Games may last for days. Okay, and we're going to get into how that happens. But the thing is, the record keeping really isn't difficult as much as it is tedious. I mean, they're not asking you to figure out the last digit of pi divided by the square root of the temperature of your butt. But it is tedious, okay? So let's get into a little bit of what makes this game tick. All right, so we have the counters here, and as we can see, it's up to a four-player game, and I highly suggest you play it with four players if you ever play this. There's two reasons for this. One, again, as they said, there's a lot of rigmarole going through this. You might as well get four people involved and get the most action out of it. But again, action is actually the second reason. With anything less, you're not getting those bidding wars that you're going to get in this. You're not going to have the races to get to certain planets, which is really cool, and we'll get into how that works in a little bit. So you really want to have at least four so you can have those interactions. Now, you almost want to say, by looking at this, that they experimented with six. Because you get a page and a half of counters. They could have easily just made another, two sheets of counters and had two more factions in it. But I think the reason is, and I thought about it for a little bit, I think the reason they didn't go to six is because again, this game's very involved, and if two people, they lag behind so much. With four people, the person that's in last place at least has enough hope and probably is close enough to catch up and think they might actually win. Five or six, they're totally out of it, and they're going to find out real quick, and then they're probably just going to quit, especially with a game like this that takes so long to play. Right? And that's not a good feel of a game. Did you like Trailblazer? Well, I never finished it, right? So that's going to be their thing. So you want everybody to finish. You want everybody to have a fun time. You want everybody not to get totally blown out of the water and feel like they got a close chance to win. Now, let's take a look at the factions themselves. Everybody gets a home base. You get four factors, as they're called, which are basically warehouses. I don't know why they call them factors. Maybe that's a business term. If you know, leave a comment down below. And there's two types of ships. There are freighters and there are scouts. Okay, this is not a combat-oriented game. Earth ended up into some kind of semi-utopia, and they finally got FTL drives, and the first thing they thought of, free commerce. We turn into Ferengi and just wham, go hit the universe and try to make some cash. I really do see this as a potential of being re-themed into a Ferengi Star Trek kind of game. That would be awesome. All right, so here we have the star chart. This is how it looks at the beginning of the game, and you get three ships at the beginning of the game. They can be any combination of transports and scouts. Now, transports can carry 2 units of cargo at a time. Scouts can only carry 1, but they do also have the ability of finding new stars, okay, habitable or exploitable. Okay, or maybe both. So the thing is with the scouts is, if you had just 3 transports, you can go beyond the 5, or within the 5 stars that are there already and just do commerce, right? But the thing about having a scout ship and trying to find another planet, you can do so right next to your base, right? So basically, if you find something, boom, 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 If they have something exploitable, you get first dibs, and they might have something good. Because the thing is, in this game, as goods and supply and demand get met, they go to more reasonable levels, and they tend to stay there, right? They stabilize after that, so that you get first dibs. So that's why having some scouts is important. There's another reason why having a scout is important, and it is because of movement. See, the thing is, ships can technically move anywhere on this star map. Technically. See, the thing is, movement. You figure out the movement, how many movement points it takes to get to one spot. Any horizontal movement's 2 points. Any diagonal movement is 3 points. So what you do is you get to one spot. Let's say you're at Sol right there, and you want to go 3 squares down to 914. Let's say, or 14-9. Go horizontal first. 14-9. 3 squares south, right? So that would be a total of 6 movement points. Well, then you'd roll the dice. If you only are using transports, you roll 2 dice. If you have at least 1 scout, you roll 3 dice. You roll the dice, and as long as you beat that number, you're okay. Okay? Of course, the more movement points you get, the more of a chance that you will roll under it, and then something bad will happen. And it's by deviation. You kind of go off course. Right? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm somewhere new. I'm not somewhere where I can be. Now you got to spend another turn to travel. And the real bad thing is if you only have transports and you go more than 5 movement points, which isn't too far, and you are further than 5 points from movement points to another star that's already on the board, that shipment's lost. Gone. That crew is gone. They're lost in space, like Danger Will Robinson lost in space, man. So there's a little bit of pressure luck here. And when I think of this, sometimes I do think of the competition of Star Traders, the Steve Jackson game, where they are the heroes and they're trying so hard to compete and just bring commerce to everybody, right? That is the way their society is. So this the only reason I would think that anybody would want to risk their ships is to go that far just to bring stuff back. Or you could say that the ships are automated completely and they're not even human operated. You could say that, I guess. And another thing is with the scouts. Now the thing is, if you are lost and at least you have a scout and you deviate, at least they can try to find new planets. Of course, you have a scout. It doesn't matter where you are on the map. You will be able to find your way back. It's just when your transports alone, they're lost and dead in the water. So when they say this game takes days to play, I don't think they mean the guys are hovered over a table trying to play it all weekend like I did when I was in the Navy playing one of my best games that I loved called Supremacy. I mean, this game was Risk with nukes. What's not the like? That was a really fun time, and we were really interactive. And yeah, there's interaction to be had with Trailblazer, but I think because of all the tediousness between turns, I think this was more of an office game or a college game. And here's what I mean by that. And let me know in the comments down below if this meets the description how you played it, if you did. The map will be on the board somewhere, and then all the prices for all the planets and the goods available, and then everybody would write their orders in for the day, and they'd hand them in to the game master, which would then compile everything. Then the next turn would let everybody know the results and have the new stats up and everything like that, and another turn would go. It would be as simple as that. Even more, nowadays, you could easily do it because of the internet. Matter of fact, it could be completely computer operated. You wouldn't even need a human being game mastering it at all. It would be that simple. So that's why I was thinking it would take days to do, because I just don't see people going through all that, especially on later turns, and just waiting around before they actually start the new turn of play. And plus, with that many planets and that many goods all around, you're probably going to do a lot more figuring it out. So I kind of like the idea of, if this was being played right now, waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning or something like that, and you get your turn sheet and you just over a cup of coffee, morning coffee, and trying to figure, kind of like stocks in the beginning of the day, you get in that little ticker tape, and you're figuring out, what planet shall I exploit today? That's why I think it would be played. Now, I do think it's pretty interesting to be able to say I'm sold on a few things when it comes to a game about selling, but it's definitely true. One of the things I'm sold on is this is definitely a game to play. I just think it definitely needs to be computer operated. I mean, that Excel spreadsheet that person made on Board Game Geek, I want to try it out and look at it. It probably fits the bill. But even then, I think that the game, I mean, this game was in the 80s. There's got to be another game that is out there. I mean, I remember Mule from Electronic Arts, if you remember that game. There's definitely games about commerce out there, probably by now, that are probably just as good and can even do more, even though I don't want my games to be too complicated, quite honestly. Even if the computers can do all these things, one thing is I learned, even with wargaming and stuff like that, all that stuff, a lot of that gets lost. You know, I do think that a simpler game would be just fine with me. Also, I do highly believe that this game would easily be reskinned for Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Absolutely. I'm rewatching it right now as it is. In the Ferengi, just say it's the new Gamma Quadrant instead of, Earth with just finding FTL and then they're expand and finding the universe for the first time. Same thing with the Ferengi going out into the Gamma Quadrant. Boom. Trying to find out new commerce and everything. 6 different Ferengi factions maybe. You definitely can throw in some, a little bit more, political pressure things in there, anything from Bajor to the Klingons. I mean, who knows? There's Romulans. I mean, you could do all kinds of stuff with that and add all kinds of political and timeline events. That would be a lot of fun. I'd like to see somebody try to do that and make that happen. Anyway, guys, that's the video. Thanks a lot. See you next time.